Hey everybody, I'm Jean-Luc and I'm joined by Jordan and Phil, and collectively we each got to spend around 5 hours with the Avengers beta before it is available to the public for those who pre-ordered later this Friday if you're watching this video at the time of release. We have tons of stuff on it. I have an explainer going up about exactly how this game is structured for those of you like me who just had no idea how this game works before you actually got the chance to play it. But we're here to talk about how it actually feels to play. So, Jordan, let's start with you. How did Avengers actually feel to control?
So I was a little worried at first because you get that intro level that we've seen in all the E3 trailers where you're on the Golden Gate Bridge and you get to play as all of the core Avengers very briefly, like 5 minutes for each one. And it was very streamlined, very holdy-handy, and I didn't like it at all. But yes, then they finally gave us control, and they gave us a few story missions with Hulk and Kamala, and then they opened it up even more, and it's like, here's Black Widow and Iron Man, play a few more open-ended missions, some Warzone drops, etc., and that felt a lot better. I still have a few issues and problems with how some of the characters played, namely Hulk, but of what I played, I'm like, okay, I can see what they're going for. I can see the game that they're trying to create, and it feels like an over-the-shoulder, not quite arcadey, but similar theme of like Marvel's Ultimate Alliance, kind of in that field of game.
The more time I spent with it, the more I enjoyed it. It's melee combat in the sort of vein that we've seen. It's like Arkham-ish. You've got your light attack, your heavy attack, your counters. You've got super moves too because you're a superhero, and once you get the sense of how those things are supposed to work, and each character is actually a little bit different, they all have a little bit of a different role on the team based on what their abilities are. That didn't really come across in the beta right away. There's not a lot of good tutorializing for that, I felt like. So once I actually got to Kamala and then to later Black Widow and Iron Man and started to understand how they're supposed to work, I actually enjoyed it a lot more. Iron Man is a counter heavy character, and Black Widow is supposed to be juggling enemies, and Kamala is about crowd control and support. Once you
I love how you also just skipped over Hulk because you don't like him either.
I did start to appreciate Hulk, but not at the beginning. It took me a long time to figure out how to play him. That's that's kind of the thing, Hulk is a big tank that smashes through everything, which makes sense. But if you don't really get what the hell you're supposed to be doing, it's just you kind of just swing your arms around and you feel ineffectual. And it takes a bit to recognize that no, Hulk you hold down a button to use his special energy, and Hulk gets health back every time he punches a guy, basically. So your whole idea is just crash through a freight train. And if you don't understand how that works, Hulk sucks. But then you get the sense of it. It took a while to get there. So once I played enough of it to understand what they were going for, I dug it. I think there's a lot of cool nuance there.
Yeah, I think the game has the most potential in how different the characters feel once you actually, get to really experiment with them. You can play the whole game single player. You can have AI companions. I didn't actually get to try any of the multiplayer with other real people, but I feel that's where the game is probably going to actually shine the most, because you want your characters to coordinate with each other, where it's okay, my friend can fly as Iron Man and be sniping from above, and then I have Hulk kind of tanking over here, and I have Kamala kind of crowd controlling over here. You have to put a significant amount of effort into each character to actually really fully start to take advantage of them, even in the beta, right?
Right.
You would have to put a significant amount of time of grinding just to really get to experience every character. So I feel you're gonna probably want to pick one character and stick with it, and that might make the game, I don't know, it might make it a little difficult to really appreciate the game and form a good party to truly take advantage of what the combat has to offer.
You definitely have to put time into each character to unlock their skills to get a sense of how to play them and make them cool. Mm-hmm. That's a big part of it. To go to your point, that's all, is that each character kind of plays differently, but it's when you actually start developing their skills, and that's going to take a big investment also.
Yeah. Just as an example, Iron Man starts with just his repulsors, but if you look at his skill tree, he can unlock missiles and lasers, and each one of them also has a skill tree, and use the D-pad to switch between all of them, and depending on how you switch, it changes his heavy attack and how his like long-range attack works. And if you've just been playing as Kamala and Hulk, which is what I did because those are the first story missions that we get, is to play as those characters. When you get to Iron Man, like I picked up Iron Man, I'm like, well, he doesn't have any awesome gear and he's still level 1, so let me go to the harm room and like just grind for an hour or so, just so that he's on like the same par level as my other characters. And I can see some people not being really happy about that. It's kind of weird that if you go on a mission and you're bringing your AI companions with you, they don't get the same experience that you get as well involved. Like I assume the game is just trying to encourage you to just play with other people. It's like, look, if you want to main Iron Man, and then find some friends who want to main Miss Marvel, Hulk, and Black Widow, and then just all play together, and then you'll just all just keep growing, and you won't have to worry about this. But I'm like, what if you don't have any friends? What if you're like Jordan and you don't have any friends?
The actual structure of the game is sort of based around these repeatable missions that you're doing outside of like the story stuff. So you have like these war zones and you have drop zones, and they're kind of meant to be these like repeatable content. How do you guys actually feel about those as like, do you think that is a sustainable, like you can keep doing these and they will be something you can just play forever?
Yeah, it's tough to say. It's the sort of Destiny model, right? Where you're replaying the same content over and over again to get better gear. And I feel like it's a little too early. There's not a lot in this beta to really get a good sense of how well any of that will work. Like the Warzone areas are cool in that they're like open, they're like public event spaces in Destiny with a mission attached. So you can kind of like run around and do other things, find optional bosses, whatever, as you are going toward your goal. And then the other missions are smaller and they're just like, beat 3 waves of guys, okay, it's over. And there's cool stuff in that. I think it can work. I think it'll work better as we get deeper into it and they become more challenging and like require more forethought on your part to bring like the right gear or to build a better team, and like have people planning on what they're going to need to do and what they're going to need to have.
I love the missions where you just drop in and you just fight a bunch of bad guys and you're done in like 5 to 10 minutes. Like I think this game is at its absolute best when you're just 4 superheroes just kicking a bunch of aim ass, just like all over the place. Like that is it at like its very best. When you're in these more open-ended environments where you kind of get a little bit of choice and agency over which tasks you want to go after when you're searching for loot or you're going after a high-tier enemy before actually doing the main part of the mission, whatever that may be. It's usually finding like a shield vault and going in and like hacking into the computer at the end. Like a bit of the cracks begin to show up. You don't get a lot of the like close range walls that allow Hulk to easily get around. So it just highlights the fact that he doesn't have a lot of mobility in comparison to the other characters. Or you sometimes run into like that really high tier enemy and maybe you're playing as Iron Man or Kamala and you're like, they have some pretty good skills, but none of them are like as strong as Hulk. Like this is designed for Hulk to take on. And so you run into a bit of a wall in those open-ended areas where if you don't pick the right character, you're kind of screwed unless you're playing with a group of friends and then like you have like options. And it's fine, I think, now in the beta just because all the missions are easy enough that you can just kind of like tackle them with whoever you want. But if they're going to get harder, if they're going to get more intricate and offer a much more wide variety of challenges, which we don't know if they will, but if they do, it feels like this game isn't designed to encapsulate multiple heroes. It feels like it's kind of like designed around a few heroes and all the other heroes kind of have skill sets that best fit into the control scheme as they can.
I think we should note that you bring AI characters if you play alone on those missions, so you have a team with you the whole time, and it's built for matchmaking like Destiny 2, so it's going to matchmake in other people potentially when you're actually playing it. Where in the press portion of the beta was, I think, so small that there weren't really a lot of people around to matchmake in with. So it might feel a little different on the whole. Part of what might make the replayability aspect of it work is that it seems like there's going to be a bunch more characters. So, you know, you might be running through the same content over and over again, but you might be doing it as Hulk and then as Kamala and then as Hank Pym. And like, so that might bring enough to it that it'll be interesting and exciting to kind of rework or, you know, fight those same fights over and over again, but with like a different approach.
Yeah, totally.
Hopefully, because the environments aren't going to do that. A lot of them are very samey.
Yeah, that same aim corridor, the same. Yeah, I think that's the thing that makes me the most nervous. Is like, man, these environments sure do look the same.
Yeah, they're all the same aim bunker, basically.
Yeah.
But only in those missions. The story missions actually do give you a bit of variety in the environments, and then they help that the characters are like talking to each other regularly, and there's something exciting going on in the background.
Right,
Jordan, that is the perfect segue. How did you guys feel about the story missions?
I feel like the story missions, they're just, in my mind, better designed than the repeatable daily strikes and Warzone things that you're doing. Like, they're designed for whichever character you're playing as. When you're playing as Hulk and Kamala, like in that mission to go find Jarvis, you get a lot of areas that are designed for those two characters to like move around the map, and you're encountering enemies that are that have a play style that they would use against you that you can easily, well, not easily, but you can counter with Hulk and Kamala. During Hulk's level, you get a lot of like bruiser enemies that are just like coming at you, so you can use like his thunderclap and a lot of area of effect stuff to kind of push people away and then smash them to bits. And during like Kamala's section, you have like a lot of platforms all around that you can easily like arm swing to, and then use her giant like high five move or really long stretchy arms and kicks to like knock people off of the platforms and like deal with them that way. So the story missions feel a lot better than the like repeatable missions because they're designed solely around whoever you're playing as in that story mission.
I think that the game has the most potential right now in the campaign stuff. That's where it seems most exciting. I really like what they're doing with these characters. I think this is kind of like following on from the MCU approach to the Avengers, where they're, you know, interestingly flawed characters, and they're often at odds with each other and stuff like that. Like, we start the game with them basically disbanding because of the A-Day stuff that we've seen in trailers. And then Kamala her role seems to be like reassembling them. She's the force that's bringing them all back together, and she's super fun. Like, she brings a lot to that role as like a super nerdy Avengers fan, and she's just like using the power of her fandom to bring them back into the game. It's great. I really enjoy that. She's a good every person lens basically for the Avengers. She's like a great person to bounce dialogue off of, and she's funny, and she brings our perspective to it. It's very good. Yeah. Like, so I think that's where I'm most excited about the game, is in playing through that story content and seeing what they do with you know, Iron Man seems like he's drinking a lot. I don't know if that's true. But like, that's, I think, where we find him. And, you know, Bruce Banner is like real mopey, even more mopey than usual. And Thor is there. He seems upset. And, you know, like, I don't know. I haven't got any sense of Black Widow in the story yet. But I think that all of these are going to be cool elaborations of what we've seen of their characters in the MCU and in comics. It's a good new take, and I'm interested in it. So,
yeah, absolutely. Especially because I'm personally wary of whether I'm going to want to play this game as like a repeatable live service type game. Like, I just don't know if the structure will be there for me to keep coming back to, and also I just don't have time in my life for another game like that. I play so much Destiny at this point. I'm already like, I should stop playing Destiny and play something else.
You'll never stop. They have plans till 2021. You're in.
I know. They add another thing, and I'm like, I gotta grind more Crucible. But if this game is like a really good story that I can just play through and have a good time, I think that'll be perfect for me. And I really like the characterization. You can tell they've put a lot of attention and detail into the acting and the cutscenes. Like, it's fun to watch those characters just talk with each other. So I'm like, I think that I am totally with you, Phil. I think that has the most potential, and that is probably what I'm the most excited for. I am curious if I'll end up liking the game enough that I will stick with it for a while. I do think it has a lot of potential in its combat and in its structure, but
Yeah,
kind of hard to tell.
I think if the characters are there, combat-wise, it could be a game that I could, I don't know if I'll play it all the time. I don't know if I have room for another Destiny either, because I do play a lot of Destiny. But I could definitely see like popping back in, playing some missions here and there with friends, and like really enjoying it and like really getting into a character for a while, and then maybe switching off into somebody else and really getting into that character. And there's a lot of cool stuff there, I think. So hopefully it can maintain.
So that's what we thought of the Marvel's Avengers beta. You can check it out for yourself if you pre-ordered the game starting on Friday. If you're watching this video at the time it's come up on PS4, and then eventually in the coming weeks it's going to be available for the public on other platforms as well, like the Xbox. You can go check that out. If you want to see more stuff on the game, we have a couple of videos and articles. I have one going up that's explaining exactly how this game is structured. If you're somebody like me who just had no idea how this game worked before I played it. Jordan also has a bunch of articles up as well explaining how the progression system works, and Phil has probably more concise and better written impressions of this than this video, but but thank you. Yeah, it's fine. It's a video. It's okay. People just leave it in the background. They don't, that's what I do anyway. Well, anyway, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Thanks.